IOTA provides the ability to view outages at the country, region, and operator or AS level. Some large outages can be seen at all three levels. That is, an outage could significantly affect a country as a whole, while also being more visible in the IOTA signals in certain regions. And we could also see the outage at the operator level for some internet operators within that country. As a case study of such an outage that we can see at all three levels, let's revisit the daily shutdown in Iran in September and October of 2022 in the wake of the death of Mahsa Amini at the hands of the morality police. So first we'll search for Iran in the search bar. Here it's popped up and we'll hit go. Remember that by default, IOTA always looks at the past 24 hours. So let's select a time frame that will show us those daily outages. We'll go to a custom range, and we know they started on the 21st, so we'll select a few days before to get somewhat of a normal signal behavior, although it's notable to recognize that Iran experiences a lot of internet censorship, so normal behavior for Iran is quite different from other countries. So we'll start on the 17th, and the daily outages ended on the 3rd, so we'll go to the 4th and hit apply. So here in this time series, we can automatically see these drops in BGP that seem to be around the same time period each day. So starting the 21st, we can see a lot of kind of drops in BGP from 1610 to 6 a.m. UTC the next day. So let's go on to the 22nd, where we have a dip in BGP from 1440 to 2040. We're starting to see a bit of a pattern with this next one that starts at 1210 and ends at 2040. Moving on to the next day, starting at 1400 and ending at 2040. And again, the next day, 1220 to 2050. And the next day, 1220 to 2050. So we could keep going and see that these outages, they start to develop a pattern where they begin around 1220 and end around 2050. So if we zoom in, we could also see that active probing is not reaching its typical maximum value during these disruptions in BGP. So previous where BGP is this remains at 100%, we see active probing pretty much reach that top of the green line plateau and then come back down basically at nighttime when machines are turned off. And that's somewhat of a normal behavior we could see. So when BGP experiences these disruptions, we can also see that active probing doesn't come up and reach that same maximum as before. Instead, we see this decay in active probing and then the normal drop that we saw on these previous days. We can also see Google Web Search do a similar drop. Let's maybe turn off some signals just to help focus on Google Search. So normally what we see Google Search do is it hits this maximum and drops, and it tends to come back up before it drops to a much lower value. And it kind of continues to do this. This is just based on when people are going to Google Search for whatever reason that they want to search something. So during these red alert bands that are generated by the BGP, we can see that IOTA drops to a much lower value than this time frame on previous days. So here we are at 1300 or maybe 1630. We're down to 23% in Google search. We'll go back to 1600 on a pretty normal day, and we're only at 52%. So we can see that during the same time frame, folks in Iran are not able to access Google web search, and we're seeing that because in this Google web search signal. So scrolling down like we did before, we can see that we have this map of Iran, and it's shaded based on the outage severity score that IOTA generates. And really what we see here is that most of the country was affected by this shutdown. And we know that to be true because of the reporting. We heard reports that the top 3 cellular providers were being shut down during this curfew time. And because they're the top 3 providers, there are a lot of people in the country that are going to be affected by this. But to take a look at a specific example, let's look at Tehran. We're going to just for now ignore that Kurdistan is a dark red because we know that these outages really did affect most of the country, and let's instead look at Tehran. So we're just going to click on this region in the map, and it will take us to a view of Tehran's signals. Now again, our Google signal has disappeared because for now we only have Google traffic data available at the country level. Let's turn on these alert bands again just to help us out and see where IOTA registered alerts. So what we can see is this same pattern in BGP down at the region level where Tehran is experiencing these daily digital curfews. So, like I said, we know that the Iranian government limited access to the internet during these times by shutting down the 3 largest mobile internet providers. These 3 providers are Irancell, Ritel, and MCCI. IOTA does not always have the best visibility into cellular networks, but let's take a look at Ritel and see what we can see. We could do that by searching for Ritel in the search bar. You could also scroll down, and on the right-hand side, we have a table that lists out all of the operators that operate in this region, along with a severity score and an IP count that just kind of gives you an indication of how large that operator is. So we can see Ritel here pretty easily. So let's click on it, on the name, and that'll take us to this network level signals. So again, we can pretty clearly see these daily outages through BGP. Active probing, we don't really see a change. We can see it on this first day, Wednesday, September 21st to the 22nd. We see both BGP and active probing drop. In the next digital curfews, we don't see that same drop. But again, because we see it at the country level, the region level, and we know from reports from the country that this network or operator was affected, we can be pretty confident just with one IOTA signal that this indeed is the digital curfews or daily shutdowns experienced by Iranians. We can even turn off these other signals that aren't giving us as much information just to more clearly show the pattern in BGP, this daily drop happening for Ritel.